Hi, this is Scott Wilkinson, host of Home Theater Geeks. In episode 334, I chat with journalists Brent Butterworth, Mike Heiss, and Tom Norton about all the cool audio and video developments we witnessed during 2016. So stay tuned.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Home Theater Geeks is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Home Theater Geeks with Scott Wilkinson, recorded December 22nd, 2016. Episode 334, a look back at 2016. This episode of Home Theater Geeks is brought to you by Epson's new EcoTank printers. With Epson's line of SuperTank all-in-one printers, you can print thousands of documents without running out of ink. EcoTank is loaded and ready to print when you are. Visit epson.com/ecotank to find out more. Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here, the Home Theater Geek and editor of avsforum.com. This week, I've got a whole gaggle of journalists joining me to talk about the year gone by. First up, Brent Butterworth, writer for Home Theater Review, The Wirecutter, and others. Hey, Brent, welcome back.
Hey, Scott. Good to be on.
Good to have you with us. Also, Mike Heiss, a writer for Residential Systems, Twice, and Hidden Wires. Hey, Mike, welcome back to you.
Hey there, Scott. Happy, merry holiday of your choice.
Thank you very much. Indeed, exactly right. And finally, Tom Norton, senior editor at Sound and Vision. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Scott.
Nice to
Hi,
see
Scott.
you.
Good. Hi,
So
Scott.
those who are tuned in to the live stream at live.twit.tv and logged into the chat room there or at irc.twit.tv can post questions as we go, and I'll pass along as many as I can. It always helps if you put my screen name in the message, my screen name being my name, Scott Wilkinson, all one word, no dots or dashes, because then it shows up in a different color on my screen. Makes it easier for me to see. So I wanted to talk with you guys today as we wind up 2016 and look ahead to CES 2017, what it is that were the important audio video stories of 2016. And I think, Mike, you proposed one thing that I think is very important, which is that the adoption rate of 4K or Ultra HD, more rightly called, was much faster than anyone even expected a year ago. Do you still believe that?
Absolutely. As I know you've said many times, try finding a decent set above 55 inches that isn't 4K. At the other end, the prices of the 4K sets has gone down dramatically. And then when you add in HDR, which I think is going to be a big story going into 2017, things are finally starting to gel.
Mm-hmm. And I certainly agree with all of that. Tom, I'm sure you probably do too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's one downside to that. That's consumer confusion, because not all UHD sets are HDR, and a lot of people don't necessarily know that the less expensive ones, many of them aren't HDR. They're just UHD.
Yeah. Yeah. And if they are HDR, what are their exact capabilities? This is one of the real problems of high dynamic range to begin with is, different TVs have different capabilities. The content is mastered in a certain way, and then it has to undergo a process typically called tone mapping, which maps how it was mastered to how much the display can actually display. So consumer confusion is rampant here, I think, and that's exactly right. Brent, you're more of an audio guy. Have you gotten into 4K yet? No.
I'm thinking about changing my projector out finally to a 4K model. I just haven't. I focus so much on audio that it just hasn't been a big issue for me. And I don't have a 4K Blu-ray player yet either. So I guess I could stream 4K, but it's just I'm focused so much on speakers and headphones and stuff that you gotta focus on something.
Well, you do. It's true. And there are some new projectors coming along that you'll probably want to look at. A few of them are HDR, but that's even more of a can of worms than TVs. And I do know that JVC is going to be showing some new projectors at CES, which is odd, very odd.
Really?
That's very strange.
Yeah.
It's very strange, but they introduce their stuff at CEDIA in the fall, but here it is at CES. So we will look forward to that very much. Mike, you made the point, I think, and rightly so, that the whole explosion of 4K really is driven mostly by the TV manufacturers.
Well, by the TV manufacturers and the panel guys. And one of the interesting bits of news that's going on pretty much as we speak is a dramatic shift in who supplies the panels. Because as the folks who are watching may or may not know, the company that makes the panel isn't necessarily the same as the folks that sell the set. And Sharp, which has traditionally been a big manufacturer, is dropping their sales to Samsung, and they're even going to buzz off Hisense, even though Hisense owns the rights to the Sharp brand in the U.S. So it's really a little wacky. It
is a little wacky. The other interesting thing about TVs, before we get on to something audio, is that we're starting to see more Chinese companies become more prominent. TCL is one that is now in Costco and various other places. And another name that we're going to really see a lot of at CES and elsewhere coming up is Leeco, Leeco.
Don't you guys laugh. I've got one of their phones, and it's really, really good. I'm taking that to CES instead of my Nexus.
Wow. Well, there you go. This name is so weird. Leeco.
Well, that's why I'm laughing. How do you pronounce it? Nope.
How do you pronounce it? I actually yesterday talked with a PR guy there, actually head of marketing, head of product development, and I asked him, how do you pronounce that name? He said Leeco. Leeco.
Did he used to play for the Cubs?
Yeah, right.
Second baseman, I think.
Yeah, right, exactly. Anyway, the two big pieces of news I thought this year were, one, that Leeco bought Vizio. That Vizio, as a brand, is now owned by this Chinese company, Leeco. And Vizio had been based in Taiwan, so that's kind of interesting right there. Leeco, I'm pretty sure, is on mainland China. And so what'll that mean? This whole Taiwan Chinese thing Leeco might become kind of a political football, kind of interesting. Yeah. But so anyway, so Leeco now owns Vizio, and they came out with their own brand of TV, which is available in this country, Leeco. And the UMax 85 is really something pretty amazing. It's an 85-inch TV, LCD TV with full array local dimming backlighting, 4K, HDR, Dolby Vision, as well as HDR10 for $5,000. And you can buy it now on their website called Le Mall for $4,000 for an 85-inch HDR-capable UHD TV. I mean, that's really remarkable.
And I believe they're going to be in Best Buy. And you talked about the TCL, which again, think this speaks to the dynamics of the market. TCL claims to be number 3. I'm just looking down at my notes. Number 3 in worldwide TV and number 6 in U.S. TV brands above Sony in the last month or two. I find that hard to believe, but that's what they say NPD is reporting.
Yeah, yeah. Tom, you haven't looked at any Leeco TVs yet, have you?
Not at all. In fact, Mike just answered my first question. Other than internet, is where they're gonna sell it at retail. I know he said Best Buy. I haven't seen it in my local Best Buy yet. But then,
well, that was TCL, I think, wasn't it, Mike?
No, the Leeco guy said they're going to be there as well, and they did a pop-up store at the Grove, and they had the set there. They had the set there, but it was like way too bright, and you couldn't really, observe it properly.
Yeah. Anyway, so the Chinese makers came on strong this year. I think they're going to come on even stronger next year. We're going to see them at CES, along with Haier, who I haven't really spent much time looking at, and my favorite, Changhong.
Changhong. They always put on a good show at CES.
They put on a great floor show at CES. So let's turn for a moment to audio. And I think certainly one of the big stories is the adoption rate of Atmos, or immersive audio. Brent, would you agree that that's a kind of a big story this year?
Yeah, it's one of those things that it seems like with all these receiver-based technologies, they make their way into receivers almost immediately nowadays, even into the lower-end products. But to see it go into sound bars so fast, I've already gotten a lot of CES invites to come see new Atmos sound bars. Mm-hmm. So, that's obviously the sound bar adoption rate for Atmos would be probably an order of magnitude greater than the receiver adoption rate in terms of the people that actually buy it.
And the receiver adoption rate is really high.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Well, it's kind of free. I mean, it's like if you're going to buy a $1,000 receiver, $500 receiver, or something like that, you're going to probably get an Atmos receiver. Whether or not you hook up the speakers, you're probably going to get it.
Right.
But Brent, having been on the manufacturer and distribution side of that market, it may be free to the user, but it sure ain't free to the people that make the things. And that's part of the business aspects of this world that is problematic.
Well, that's always been the case, though. That's been the case for 2 decades now, close to it. When I worked at Dolby, that was an issue that we had, was that people kind of got tired of paying us money. And it was a constant complaint. And always, the licensing load on a lot of these products is pretty high, but usually what will happen is the companies will be somewhat sensitive to that, and they'll start packaging some of these things together and offering price breaks. And they know that on a DVD player that sells for, or Blu-ray player that sells for $59, you can't have a $20 licensing load.
Yeah, right. but it's more than that. And a little inside baseball, I know a lot of people are interested in that. To do the standard Dolby and DTS, you can generally get away with one DSP. To do Atmos and DTSX, you need a second DSP. And that adds to the cost and complexity of the product. I'm working with the manufacturer now for a new surround sound processor, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But for the consumer though, the consumer doesn't really care. That's
other than price sensitivity, right? I mean, the consumer.
And then when the manufacturers all go bankrupt,
they haven't yet.
No, they haven't yet. I always wondered if that was the same thing with 3D, because 3D, which is another thing I want to talk about, but I'll mention it here. It seemed to be kind of just an add-on, a feature that came along with virtually all TVs you bought a couple of years ago. Now, of course, it's not as much, and we're going to talk about that later. But I always wondered if that was also kind of an add-on, that it comes along for free, essentially, as Brent said. I don't really know.
And nobody cares anymore.
Nobody cares anymore. So why did I even bring it up? Sorry.
I mean, I'll be curious to see if there are going to be any sets at CES really that have 3D anymore.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do know that there are some companies who are not including it specifically, so we'll be reporting on that from CES. Brent, you mentioned sound bars, and Atmos sound bars in particular, and that is, I think, something that came on this year and will be really strong next year. Samsung was the first one. Have you had a chance to listen to that one yet?
I heard it in their demo, which I think you were probably at, the one that they had in their labs in Simi Valley.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, not Simi, up in Valencia.
Valencia, I get them all mixed up, sorry. Well, LA-centric.
Right.
Yeah, I've heard it. I've heard the Yamaha one, which was pretty impressive. I saw that Nakamichi is introducing one for CES. Who am I forgetting? I think Vizio's got a new one coming out too, right?
I think so. Yeah. Tom, you're about to say something?
No, I was just wondering. my question on sound bars is that most of them are powered these days, but there are unpowered sound bars, which might cause some consumer confusion that you'd need a receiver to go with those unpowered sound bars.
That's a good point. We just did and on AVS, we just did a 9 things to think about when shopping for a sound bar. And one of them was powered versus unpowered. And most of them are powered, but a few of them aren't. And then you need a receiver, and that kind of defeats the purpose. If you're going to have a receiver, why not have speakers all around? Brent, what's your feeling about that?
I kind of agree with you. I think that there are some people that want that nice, clean TV installation where they have a TV and the sound bar under it and nothing else is really visible. But, from a cost standpoint, you're not really saving anything because all those passive sound bars are just the same. You end up spending about as much as you'd spend for a 5.1 system.
Right.
But they look nicer, and sometimes looking nicer is an important part of the equation because you have to convince other people in your house that you should have it, and they hate the way it looks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. All right. iPad 22103 is asking, is the Sonos soundbar the best available? Actually, I think you probably mean Sonos. Sonos soundbar best available, which it is according to Consumer Reports. Anybody here tried the Sonos Play?
Best
I think it's
for
called
what?
the Play Bar. Yeah, best for what?
The question, but that I was going to say that while you guys were talking is that the impact of all of this wireless audio and Sonos-like substances and HEOS and all those Play-Fi, all those kinds of things is going to whack around the soundbar market because those kind of products with streaming audio and the Wi-Fi stuff typically are not in the same market where you would expect to have Atmos or DTSX.
True enough. Well, we've kind of veered off into soundbar territory then. And Brent, I'm sure you would agree that that is becoming an ever more important part of the audio marketplace, right?
Well, I'd say it's probably from a home theater standpoint, it's kind of the most important thing. That's the only thing that's broadly available to the public at this point. You go to Walmart or Costco or something, and you're going to see a whole lot of sound bars, and you may not even be aware of the existence of a real 5.1 system. So that's what people are going to be buying, and they're $100 and up, $80 and up, something like that. And, some of the really inexpensive ones are pretty well designed, and you get a lot of people that are spending $250, $300 for a nice Vizio sound bar, and to get them to spend a lot more, and they have to hook the speakers up, and they have to wire the whole thing up, and they get a receiver that they can't work, et cetera, it gets to be a tougher sell.
Yeah. So it really is the simplicity and price probably are the primary motivating factors. And I think everyone would agree that if all you want to do is improve the sound of the TV's internal speakers, you're going to be able to do that at almost any price.
Sure. I think Brent just just raised a good point on simplicity. Separate receivers and preamp processors and such are getting so incredibly complex. They have to do everything, and I can't imagine that there's a lot of consumer confusion as to how to actually operate these things. And the instruction manuals are usually terrible to start with.
Yeah.
Well, there's also reviewer confusion too.
Yes. What? Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Reviewers are people too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. But it's up to us though, as reviewers, to try and dispel confusion as much as possible. And maybe we'll be confused at first, but by the time the article is posted, it better be pretty clear, or we're not doing our job right.
But maybe I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mike.
No, maybe the main barrier though is if you look at the general consumer population versus I'll take the liberty of saying the HTG audience. How many of the folks who watch this program are really soundbar guys in the main room, and maybe that is why they gravitate towards receivers, and soundbars just Atmos-y soundbars don't make sense in that market.
True enough. iPad 22103 in the chat room says soundbars don't provide true surround sound. By themselves, that's true, although there are several, quite a few, that use various kinds of either DSP to trick your brain into thinking there's surround sound. Yamaha is particularly good at that. Or speakers pointed in different directions that reflect off the walls and ceiling, which is how you get Atmos or overhead sound to begin with out of this Samsung soundbar. So, Brent, have you ever done any reviews of soundbars? Oh, and then the third part is that you can get a soundbar that actually has separate speakers out to the side. Have you, Brent? Tell us about your experiences with reviewing soundbars, if you've done any, and the difference between sort of simulated surround from a single unit versus actual surround with real speakers on your sides or rear.
Sure. Well, you pointed out that there are some that actually have surround speakers. There's a couple of 3 or 4 or 5 Vizio models have done that, and they plug the surround speakers into the subwoofer, and the subwoofer goes behind you, and it works pretty well. Some of those have had a standard Dolby Digital DTS 5.1 presentation. The very latest Vizios kind of play around with the mix a little bit, and it's not quite by the book 5.1, but what they're doing is they're trying to make it sound more enveloping and better, and to give you an overall more satisfying experience. There's a lot of them that have the processing built into them, like SRS and things like that. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's great, sometimes it's not. It depends on how it's set up, and SRS actually does the setup on a lot of these things, and there are sound bars that are out there that actually have a certain amount of surround processing running even when they don't say that they do. So it's a really interesting field, and it's what's fascinating to me is that they're doing these things for $100, $200, something like that, and they get them to sound pretty good, and with crummy components and cheap manufacturing and plastic enclosures, and there's some pretty remarkable audio engineering going on inside these things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would have to agree. And speaking of manufacturing and inexpensive yet high quality products, we've seen regular speakers come up in that regard too. Pioneer, well, wherever Andrew Jones is an example of that. When he was at Pioneer, the speakers that he made were very inexpensive, and yet sounded really great. And now that he's at ELAC, he's doing the same thing. And they're on everybody's top value pick almost. Tom, have you listened to any of the new ELAC speakers?
Only the B6 and the B5. Those are the first ones, the debuts.
The debut series, yeah.
They're not a miracle, but they're quite a bargain.
Yeah, exactly. Brent, what about you?
I would say about the same thing. All of his stuff is always at least as good as anything else you can get for the price point. Sometimes it's the best. I would say on the certainly the Pioneer stuff he did is as yet unchallenged in those ultra low, $110 a pair speaker price points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've tested the more recent ELAC stuff, and it's at least real competitive. And at best, it's the best.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to high dynamic range, which is another area that I really think has come a long way in 2016 and has a longer way yet to go. We have basically 2 competing formats. I don't know if you could really say that. Coexisting formats. An open standard called HDR10, which is free for people to implement in their TVs and in their content. And then we have Dolby Vision, which is not free. And we were talking about licensing fees earlier, and Dolby is asking a licensing fee in order to use Dolby Vision. And in a TV or a set-top box of some sort, it requires extra hardware. It requires a chip. So I wanted to get everybody's impression of what they think so far of HDR content and development and adoption and so on. Tom, let's start with you.
Yes, I'm very impressed. I've only have really any significant experience with HDR10, not a lot with Dolby Vision, because there isn't a lot of Dolby Vision around out there except streamed. But right. Yeah, it's I would like to see a little more. I would like to see Dolby Vision show up on UHD discs. Of course, there aren't any players that will do it right now, though there are a couple that have been promised. Yeah,
we can talk. We'll talk more about that in a minute. But at the moment, there aren't any players that do it right, and there aren't any discs that have a Dolby Vision, format on them. But we think this may change.
Well, yeah. Another issue is there's still some manufacturers that don't offer Dolby Vision in their products. Samsung and Sony, for two, that at least as of right now, don't offer it.
Right, exactly. Whereas LG and Vizio do.
Yeah.
And there's at least one streamer, Mike. I think it's Chromecast Ultra has Dolby Vision.
I'm sorry. Chromecast Ultra as the streaming device and Voodoo as the streaming service.
As the source,
at the moment.
They're the only ones.
They are the only ones.
Yeah, but Dolby Vision does have some advantages, which HDR10 is trying to catch up to. Probably the biggest one is something called dynamic metadata. So what that means is that basically the metadata is encoding the information about how the content was mastered. And if you do it in Dolby Vision, you can specify the peak brightness for each scene, down to each frame actually, so that the TV can adjust. Whereas HDR10 has only what's called static metadata. So it's got one number for the peak brightness. And if the TV can't quite handle that, then it's got to be tone mapped, and the rest of the content looks a little weird. And so HDR10, SMPTE, it's a SMPTE standard, open standard, is working on getting dynamic metadata into HDR10, in which case it'll be closer to Dolby Vision in that regard. And I suspect we'll see something about that.
And I think that's a lot of what the HDMI 2.1 that they are rumored to be announcing next week or the week after will be part of. But as much as I know, and I think looking ahead, even though I know this is supposed to be the year in review, that the Dolby Vision is going to gain a lot of traction in the year ahead, if for no other reason than driven by the amount of theatrical content. I'm really bummed out that I'm going to be missing La La Land in Dolby Vision at the TV Academy Theater, but every Dolby Vision theatrical presentation that I've seen is just really amazing. Really amazing.
Brent, do you go out to the movies much?
All the time. Yesterday.
Do you go to Dolby Cinemas? Do you go see Dolby's Vision high dynamic range in the theater?
When possible. And, I've been to Dolby's secret theater in Hollywood where they do the lab theater.
Yep.
And it's really impressive. I'm actually, as a non-video guy, I'm somewhat excited about this because I can really see a difference with HDR or in either of its guises than I can with, say, 4K. Because at 4K, I can't, normal TV, I can't see the difference. Whereas HDR, the difference is, pretty obvious, and it's pretty dramatic, and it's pretty appealing.
Yep. I totally agree. I now have a hard time going out to movies that aren't in a Dolby Cinema.
Hidden Beast was a great example of that.
A Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them?
The Harry Potter thing.
The Harry Potter one, yeah. That was a good example. I didn't think it was that great a movie, but
who watches the movie?
Yeah, therein lies another tale.
I'm probably the only one on the podcast whose nearest Dolby Vision theater is 150 miles away.
Oh man!
Well, maybe 120.
That is so frustrating. Did you go see Rogue One, or you're hoping that they show it in the Dolby Cinema in Las Vegas?
I'm hoping to see it in Vegas if it's still playing.
Yeah, I hope it is. I mean, that's another 2 weeks away.
It will be there.
Mm-hmm. You think so?
Oh, I think there are going to be a couple of screenings. Yes, it's definitely going to be there.
Okay, good. Well, Tom, you need to go see it because, again, the high dynamic range, well, as I wrote in my review of it, the high dynamic range was great, but at certain Dolby Cinemas, AMC has all Dolby Cinemas in the U.S., and in what they call a handful of them, including the one nearest me in Burbank, they were showing it in 3D. Normally, Dolby Cinemas, AMC Dolby Cinemas don't show movies in 3D. They show them in 2D, which I strongly prefer. But in this particular case, they tried to do an experiment and showed it in 3D with Dolby 3D, which is a different kind of 3D than you see most of the time. And I don't like it because I wear prescription glasses. And I think you guys all do too, right? When you're watching movies?
Yep,
I do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So have you ever seen a Dolby 3D, a movie in Dolby 3D with the what are called spectrum separation or 6P 3D glasses?
I saw one. I saw one of the Kung Fu Panda movies at DreamWorks about 4 years ago.
Oh yeah, I was there. I saw that with you as well.
Yeah, and it was the thing that bothered me about that is that the colors were bland because that Kung Fu Panda franchise, the colors are brilliant on that thing, especially on Blu-ray. But on the presentation there, I mean, they were there, but it was just dimmed.
Yeah.
Another issue that I can see with putting 3D in the Dolby Cinemas, it obviously might be commercial advantages, but one of the problems for high dynamic range in the cinema, you've got to get enough brightness, and 3D itself compromises the brightness
by a lot.
Yeah.
But that's where the Dolby guys are insisting on the dual laser projectors to try and overcome that.
Exactly.
Yeah, but don't they already use the dual laser projectors in the Dolby Cinema theaters?
Yes, they
in
do.
the Dolby Cinema ones, yes.
Yes.
Well,
in fact, I was going to say, Tom, that if in 2D you're getting a brightness off the screen, so they say they are speccing 31 foot Lamberts, whereas a 2D movie in a normal theater is more like 14.
Yeah.
Whereas 3D in a normal theater is 3 or 4 reaching your eye, whereas in a Dolby Cinema it's 14 in 3D reaching your eye.
But it's not 32.
No, it's half of what it is in 2D, but it's still brighter than what you'd see in 3D elsewhere.
Well, that's true, but the whole point of high dynamic range is being able to get great blacks and great bright highlights.
Yeah, it's true. Brent, what do you think of 3D generally, and have you been to Dolby Cinema or an IMAX laser projector theater that uses this spectrum separation?
I couldn't tell you for sure. I can't remember the last time I saw a 3D movie.
So it's been a while. All right.
I hate them.
Okay. All right. That's fair enough. Fair enough. Then you definitely wouldn't want to go see Rogue One at Burbank.
No, I just saw it in Houston yesterday, so it was in whatever
it was.
It's Houston. I got whatever I could get,
Well, now Houston does have some Dolby Cinemas.
Oh, you're ruining my weekend. Is the Rogue One in Burbank a 3D?
I'm afraid so, yes.
Isn't
there one in Century City that's not?
Yes. Century City 15 is in 2D. Sorry, guys, we're talking LA here. And the problem is that only certain movie theaters are showing it in 2D, Dolby Cinema theaters anyway, showing it in 2D, and some are showing it in 3D. The one nearest to Mike and me is in 3D, and I'm sorry to say that, Mike. If you want to see it in 2D, which I do recommend, you have to go over the hill to Century City.
Well, I'm going to wait to see if it shows up somewhere else.
Vegas.
Vegas, maybe. Yeah, maybe you can go in at CES when we're there.
Well, I'm hoping for the TV Academy.
Yes, it probably will be at the TV Academy.
But okay. There's an interesting one interesting footnote to that. They have probably the best Dolby Cinema room in existence, maybe outside of the secret one, and they have not shown any of the movies in 3D.
Yes, good for them. I'm glad to hear it. And it's interesting that they haven't, because they could.
But on the other hand, it goes to people buying into HDR and Dolby Vision on a consumer level is that people aren't exposed to demos anymore. Where there's only one big box store, national chain. How are they going to demo it? And you need that visceral impact of the end of the Dolby Vision trailer when the screen goes black and then it pops up, the projector is still on. And that makes the case. Right.
And you can't really see all the advantage of high dynamic range unless you're in a really dark room. which on the
Just
show
like
floor
every
of
mass market retailer.
Yeah, exactly. You're on the show floor of Best Buy. You ain't going to see that. Well, anyway, we got a bunch more to talk about. But before we do, I'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, which is Epson. Epson's revolutionary cartridge-free EcoTank line of printers for home and office introduce a new age in printing. The EcoTank ET4550 wireless all-in-one printer doesn't use ink cartridges. Instead, it features an amazing, innovative, refillable ink tank, earning it the title of CES 2016 Innovation Awards honoree. So there's no more out-of-ink frustration. It includes up to 2 years of ink, equal to 11,000 black pages, or about 8,500 color pages. You can save up to 80% on ink with low-cost replacement ink bottles. It's also powered by Precision Core printing technology. It has auto two-sided printing and a 30-page auto document feeder, and easy wireless printing from tablets and smartphones. All EcoTank printers deliver an unbeatable combination of convenience and value. With Epson's EcoTank line of printers, you'll have the freedom to print without running out of ink. In fact, the Epson EcoTank system was named the 2016 Small Biz Windows Printer of the Year. So visit epson.com/ecotank today to transform the way your home, office, or work group prints. For the best combination of ease and value, turn to the Epson EcoTank printers. That's epson.com/ecotank. And we thank Epson very much for their support of Home Theater Geeks. Epson, exceed your vision. So let's see here. Got a couple of questions in the chat room. iPad 22103. What is Dolby Vision and why is it so good in the cinemas? And will this translate to the home environment? Well, it's kind of what we've been talking about. The reason it's so good in the cinema is that the content, the movies that have been graded or prepared in this way with Dolby Vision have much brighter brights. Sounds like a laundry commercial. Much brighter brights and much deeper blacks and much richer colors. Actually, that's not true. The colors are about the same as they are in most theaters, encompassing a gamut that we call P3 or DCI. So high dynamic range, the range between the brightest bright and the blackest black is greater than it is in the other commercial cinemas. And that's why it looks so good. And how will this translate into the home environment? It'll translate great as long as the TV has Dolby Vision decoding and the source device has Dolby Vision capabilities as well. And the content is being delivered encoded in Dolby Vision. And as we pointed out earlier, there isn't that much of it yet. Only from Vudu is the only streaming source so far. And the Chromecast Ultra is the only streamer that has it so far. No Ultra HD Blu-ray players have it yet. We will see some next year. I'm virtually certain of that. And Vizio and LG are the TVs that implement it currently. So it's gaining strength. It came on and it's gaining strength here. So I think we will see more of it.
It's important to add, too, Scott, that we're talking about theatrical presentations with a maximum of 32-foot Lamberts versus a flat screen at home that can put out, several times that much.
Oh, yeah.
So HDR should be more effective. HDR should be more impressive at home with everything except screen size, of course.
Yeah, true enough. Smaller screen.
Yeah. Speaking of players, I don't think it's breaking an NDA rule, but I think that Oppo has already announced that they're going to have a Dolby Vision upgrade for the 203, is it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. That's exactly right.
Yes.
So Oppo, which we've been waiting for a long time for their Ultra HD Blu-ray player, announced it. It's available for pre-order now, and they've released details. And you're right, it's not breaking any NDA to say that's the UDP 203. It doesn't do Dolby Vision at launch, but it will have that in a firmware update. And Oppo's been just great about firmware updates.
It's important. It's important to note that someone asked me this question online a couple of weeks ago. HDR. I mean, Dolby Vision does require both hardware and software on firmware.
Yep.
But the Atmo will ship with the appropriate firmware is already built into it. It's just that the firmware isn't the appropriate hardware.
Hardware, yeah.
Hardware.
Yeah.
The firmware hasn't been written yet.
Right. Right.
And that's the 203 is already in the wild. I've spoken.
People
to
who
some
actually
people
have it?
that have them. Yeah.
Okay. You know, I meant to show a picture about Dolby Atmos. Getting back to Dolby Atmos for just a second, there's a picture I wanted to show everybody about upfiring Dolby Atmos or Dolby Atmos enabled speakers. And Brent, I'd love for you to talk about this. Tell us the difference between this and actually having real speakers over your ceiling.
Well, it's like the difference between butter and margarine.
I can't believe it's not butter.
Not butter.
It's the thing is, the general consensus among everyone I've talked to is that, you know, the upfiring speakers basically are designed to where they're sort of somewhat directional, and they're intended to bounce beams of sound off your speaker, then back down to you.
Off your ceiling, you mean.
Yeah, off your ceiling, right. So it appears the sound is coming from your ceiling. However, they're only directional at pretty high frequencies, like around 6 or 8 kilohertz. I can't remember. And so you can still hear, you know, if you turn off everything but the little Atmos speakers on top of your main speakers, you can still hear them coming straight at you. So it works. It kind of creates a more enveloping sound. It's exciting. I prefer it. I reviewed a bunch of those systems, and I think it's a nice effect. However, once you put the ceiling speakers in, it's a whole different thing. It's so much better, and it is not necessarily much more expensive if you're capable of running wires into your ceiling.
Right.
But it's
more trouble. It's more of a hassle to do. But once you've done it, you're saying the result is a lot better.
Oh, it's so much worth it. I finally did it. And, you know, I've been to a lot of demos with the ceiling speakers, and I reviewed a lot of the Atmos enabled speakers that fit on top of your main speakers. And, you know, I liked them, but boy, once I put those ceiling speakers in, it was just like, oh God, why didn't I do this on day one? I mean, it's just so much better. And, you know, I think it took me 2 hours to do.
Oh, that's not
pretty
bad.
good at it.
Wow.
Pretty good at it. I've done a lot of them, but it really, and my room is set up to where it's pretty easy to run wires through it. But yeah, 2 hours, and now I'm all set to go, and it sounds amazing. And you know, when you play the really best Atmos stuff, you can hear the difference so well.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that Dolby, obviously they're no fools. They realize that if they didn't have Dolby Atmos enabled speakers available on the market, and you had to put ceiling speakers in or nothing, Dolby Atmos would go nowhere.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we were all talking about Dolby as a year in review item. I'm really surprised that DTSX, from a content standpoint, appears to be in the witness protection program. I mean, I don't. I mean, as Brent mentioned earlier, there are a lot of AVRs and surround sound processors with it. But where's the content?
Oh, you know, I should say I just got a UPS notice today that I'm getting the Blu-ray of Deepwater Horizon, which was done by the DTS team, and you know, that was done in immersive by the DTS team. John Kellogg, who we all know.
Oh yeah.
And I saw it. I went to the flagship theater that DTS uses, the Movieco Theater in Thousand Oaks, and saw it. And it was the best immersive mix I've ever seen. So I just got a UPS notice that this disc is on the way to me, and should be arriving today.
That's DTSX,
Wow.
you said, right?
Yeah.
That's DTSX, right?
Yes, not
That's-
Atmos.
That's the other
But
immersive
at this
format.
stage of the game, they're way behind where Dolby was, relative to intro.
Right.
That's
if this
just
is
not
the
like them
first
because they're
disc,
good guys.
This is the first disc that's come out. I mean, there have been well over 100 Atmos discs, I'm sure. Brent, this is a Blu-ray, not an Ultra HD Blu-ray?
I don't have it yet. I just got the UPS notice that said it was Deepwater Horizon BD.
So we don't really know. It could be UHD.
It's not Ultra HD. I'd go and get it, but it's in the other room.
Well, you have it, Mike?
Not Ultra HD.
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? Well, then, Brent, you're still going to need a player that can decode or that can send the DTS bitstream anyway to your receiver or processor. which had better have DTSX decoding in it. I assume it does.
Yeah, I'm all set to go, I believe. It'll be my first one. We'll see if it works.
We'll see if it works. Wow. Well, we'll have you back on to give us a report. Let's see. I also wanted to show the Samsung Atmos soundbar just to show everybody how it kind of envisioned to work. It's this same Dolby Atmos enabled thing where there are up-firing speakers that bounce off the ceiling and give you this effect, which, as Brent said, is okay. It's good, but it's not nearly as good as actually putting real speakers up there. So anyway, I wanted to make sure we touched upon that. Streaming devices with HDR. I think I have a couple to show you. Chromecast Ultra is the only one with Dolby Vision, and it's this little circular dongle thing. I'm going to get one myself. I think they're what, $70-80, something like that.
$65.
There you go, $65. The Roku Ultra has high dynamic range, but only HDR10. And the NVIDIA Shield is another one that's kind of cool. There's the Roku.
And the Xiaomi.
The Xiaomi.
I just did a review of them. So, the Xiaomi has HDR also.
And what did you think? Was it good?
It's Android TV. I have to confess, I'm a Roku guy. And the Rokus are just outstanding from content perspective. So you'd have to really be really good to top that.
Yeah. Rusty Bones in the chat room is asking for thoughts from the group on DTSX, Atmos, and Oro 3D. We've already talked about Atmos and DTSX. Brent, you said the best immersive sound experience you've had so far is DTSX in a commercial cinema, which I have not had that experience yet. I love Atmos. From what I've heard of it in many theaters, many movies, it's been great. But DTSX, I can't wait to hear it. I mean, I'm not sure when I'll drive out to Thousand Oaks for it, but
you should. It's worth it.
It's worth it. Okay, all right.
It's not playing any longer. It's out of theaters.
No, it's out of there now. But I'll have to get that Blu-ray as well and check it out. Tom, what is your relative feeling about these three technologies? We haven't even really mentioned Oro 3D, but that's another one that's kind of obscure.
I haven't heard DTSX or Oro 3D, to be honest with you. I heard Oro at a couple of CES demos, but that's all.
Right. Which was very impressive.
Yeah, my opinion on all these formats, especially the difference between, say, DTSX and Dolby Vision is going to be like the difference between Dolby True HD and DTS HD Master Audio. They're both going to be very good formats, and the difference is going to be on each particular sample of material is going to be how well that material was produced for that format.
Exactly.
Yes, agreed, 100%.
Okay, very good. Yes, exactly. You guys have probably all heard the recording that was done basically for Oro 3D of the Magnificat, which is a modern piece with an old sounding name. And man, oh man, at the demos, that just sounds wonurful.
Yeah, I heard that at the demo last year, yes, CES.
Yeah, but there isn't that much.
They don't have any hardware support outside of Denon.
Oh.
True. Well, that's not 100% true. There are a couple of AV pre-pros that have it as an option. Trinov is one.
You need a lot of horsepower to do that. Of the three main DSP manufacturers, ADI is the only one I think that has a complete Oro set, and that's what Denon and Marantz use.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that the Oro speaker array is recommended is not identical to the Atmos or DTSX array.
It's not. Well, DTS doesn't really specify an array.
Okay.
But the way I've heard it in demos is that it is more like Oro than it is like Atmos. Atmos puts the speakers actually in the ceiling. Oro Oro puts them kind of about 30 degrees up, so close to the ceiling, but still kind of in the corner between the ceiling and the wall. And DTS kind of doesn't specify, unless I'm wrong about that, Brent.
Well, DTS is you could say, sort of piggybacking on Dolby at this point. they're mixing. I've been in their little mixing lab that they have in their headquarters, where they do a lot of the mixes for this, and they're set up with all sorts of different speaker arrays so they can do different things and simulate different effects. But they're basically sort of, they know that there's already Atmos systems out there in place. They know that the systems are going to use the 4-speaker array. Technically, they do have the capability of doing more than that, but they're limited by what the receivers can support at this point. Right now, the receivers support an Atmos array.
Right.
Michael, do you have any? I mean, I know
that you're talking about the room with the big circular truss above the console.
Oh no, the little room with the JBL professional monitors in it.
Oh, okay. No, I think you're absolutely right. And what DTS has said to me, at least, is that they're kind of the Switzerland. You want to have an Atmos array, have an Atmos array. You have an Auro array, have an Auro array. Knock yourself out. What I've heard at the other side is that the theater guys don't like Auro because they're going to tear that screen down once to put the speakers in, and they just don't want to have one array for Auro 3D Cinema and another one for Atmos or DTSX.
Yep. So it's still kind of a bit of a Wild West out there. iPad 22103 is asking a lot of questions here. Thank you very much for doing that. Does Chromecast Ultra do full luminance 3D? Well, it's not up to the source device. It's up to the display and how much light it can output and pump through those glasses. If you even have a display that can do 3D at home, which, as we discussed a little earlier, there aren't that many. The number of displays that can do 3D for in the home is decreasing, shall we say. I also wanted to talk some about headphones. Brent, what's your feeling on headphones these days and where they're going, where they have come the last year anyway?
Well, they're going in about 10 different directions right now. We've seen a lot of more high-end headphones. I mean, just 2 years ago, headphones that were more than $1,000 were pretty uncommon. Now there's a whole bunch of them out there that are $3,000 or $4,000, and they actually sound really good. Like you might want to spend that much money on. They really do pay off. However, with the iPhone 7, the iPhone 7 lost its headphone jack. It's 3.5 millimeter analog headphone jack, as did there's a new HTC Android phone that is missing the headphone jack as well. So you're going to have to go through Bluetooth, or you're going to have to go through a dongle that has a Lightning connector or a USB-C connector. We're in a transition mode right now. I think I'm not really sure where it's going to go, but I'm pretty sure we're going to start to see a lot more. We're already seeing a lot more Bluetooth headphones. A lot of other manufacturers have gotten into it, and we're starting to see just more active headphones in general, which I think is a good thing. They can sound a lot better.
Hey, Brent, what have you seen as an impact of the change to Lightning connection for the high-end headphones? And just because we were talking about Atmos, the Leco phone that I have has a USB-C. It's an Android phone, and it has a USB-C output, and it claims to have Atmos as well.
What?
Hey, I don't make the news.
Out of a phone?
Oh, Dolby's been saying that since the very beginning.
There's only a few headphones out there right now that are Lightning or USB-C compatible. I don't know if that's ever really going to take off, because it's probably just as cheap to do Bluetooth, if not cheaper. And a lot of people really like Bluetooth, and there are some audio enthusiasts who kind of shy away from it, but the vast majority of people, once they have the option of having a wireless headphone, will greatly prefer the wireless headphone.
I think I forget which one of you mentioned the OSIC headphones, OSIC X.
Oh yeah,
that may have been you. There's a picture of it. This sounds kind of interesting. I hadn't heard of it before.
It's pretty neat. It combines, it actually has physically separate little drivers in those earpieces. If I remember correctly, it's 3 or 4 drivers in each earpiece. So it's not just simulating surround sound. It's actually providing surround sound for you. And
with
it's got
separate drivers.
with separate drivers, although they're adding processing to it as well. They have a head tracker on there as well, which is really important because, you know, when you move your head, you want to hear the sound continue to come from in front of you rather than you don't want to hear it turn. So, or I'm sorry, I completely screwed that up. When you turn your head, you want to hear, if you're listening to a singer, the singer's right in front of you, you turn your head, you want to hear the singer go more into one of your other ear, right? As opposed to
you're out. Yeah. As if the singer were in front of you and you turn your head, they're still in the same location.
Yeah, you're getting into sort of an audio uncanny valley when you have that. Sort of like Governor Tarkin in Rogue One. And if you've seen that.
I haven't seen it.
It really
okay.
No spoilers.
No spoilers. All right, no spoilers.
No spoilers. All right. But this thing works pretty well. You know, I heard a really early demo of it. I think it was early this year or late last year. You know, a model that looked like I'd built it. You know, it was kind of kludged together. But the concept really works well. You know, and their attitude is, look, we're going to build the thing and see what happens. We may license this to other people. We may become a big headphone company. We may, who knows what. But it does seem to work, and it's a lot more practical than, say, the Smith Realizer, which works amazingly well, but is, I think, $3,000, and each one has to be like, each one has to basically be calibrated to your. It's really a complicated thing to do.
It's a complicated thing and very expensive, but it works really, really well. This is a more generic kind of thing.
Yeah.
Rusty Bones in the chat room saying these headphones won Pop Sci Innovation of the Year 2016, so they were impressed. So what? Anything else about headphones? I just recently posted a piece about Hi-Fi Man coming up with their flagship headphones at $50,000.
And there's the Sennheiser, the new Sennheiser one, which I can't remember the name of it, is also going to be about 50,000. Yeah, that's going to be about 50,000. I guess there's a market for this, or they wouldn't do it.
It does include the amplifier.
5 or 10, both of them do.
And they
and
don't
the
have to sell too many.
Are spectacular. Yeah, they sell 5 or 10 or 20, and they're doing really good.
Right.
So it could be that they're more of a flagship thing just to get attention. I actually told Sennheiser I just wanted to give a brief listen to him because I knew that lots of people would write articles about him. Even the mainstream audio, sort of tech press would write about him and go, "Oh my gosh, $50,000, blah blah blah," and I'm sure they're terrific, but it's just so far. It's like $1 million sports car. It's like it's a fun thing to put on the cover of your magazine, but it's, it's not exactly a trend.
But there are people who buy data sets and Trinnov altitudes and things of that nature. So, who knows?
True. Yeah.
Yep. There is.
Is there a headphone jack on the Trinnov altitude?
I don't know. I'll have to look and see. There was there's somebody in the chat room was asking about iPad 22103. Is Trinnov going to make a UHD Blu-ray player? I don't think so. No. User 2519. Here it is. Where do you buy all these UHD Blu-rays? Mostly, I think Amazon or online anyway.
Best Buy has them.
Oh, do they have them in the store?
They have a good selection of Best Buy, even here in the sticks.
the sticks of the panhandle of Florida. Okay,
that's right. You get dozens of not dozens, as many as they got. You got almost all the titles.
Yeah, and there are close to 100, at least worldwide. In the U.S., probably a little less than that. There are some foreign titles that we don't get here. But that was another topic I wanted to bring up, was that UHD Blu-ray players appeared this year pretty strong. Samsung was the first, then Philips and Panasonic came on, and the Xbox One even can play them. So there's 4 of them that are available right now. Panasonic's
and don't forget the Oppo.
Oh, and the Oppo. I should have put the Oppo in there, yeah, because that is available now. And as you say, if some people actually have it, then it's in the market. The Oppo is what, $500-600?
About $550, I think.
$550, something like that.
Yeah, and I think there's a picture of it. The Samsung was the first one out, and that one was $300 or $400.
And it's really marked down
that's the Samsung.
for holidays.
It's available for like $250 or $275 now.
Yeah.
If you go on Amazon, you can find it cheap.
Yeah.
Which means the new one's got to be coming.
Do you remember? Yeah, we'll see it at CES, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You guys remember the first Blu-ray player? It was a Samsung, the BDP 1000, listed for $1,000.
Well, remember the first CD player?
I don't remember specifically, but it must have been
It was
up
a
there
Sony.
too.
It was a
and
Sony.
It
It was
was
a
really
Sony.
expensive.
Yeah,
It was $1,000 30 years ago.
Something like that. Yeah.
yeah,
When
yeah.
$1,000
And
was
now,
really $1,000.
Yeah.
and the UHD Blu-ray players are starting at half that, and they're only going to get cheaper from there. So really pretty amazing. Somebody in the chat room was saying, "Oh, iPad 22103, the Oppo hardware update. Let's see, when the UHD player, when their UHD player is updated with Darby video processing, then he'll get it, because the current Blu-ray players from Oppo have Darby video processing in it, which is one of the few video processors that most videophiles like. Most of the time, we don't. Tom, you've played with Darby, I'm sure.
Just a little bit, not too much. I've got a 105D that has Darby. I don't generally use it. I don't think.
Oh, you keep it off, huh?
Yeah, I don't think generally on HD material, and certainly not UHD material. I'm not sure why I might want to use it, but I could see for marginal material it might be a help.
iPad 22103 is reminding me of Darren Fong Audio, which makes software called Out of Your Head, which is another of these headphone virtualizers like the OSIC. Although the OSIC headphones actually have separate drivers, this Out of Your Head software just works with any pair of headphones. Brent, have you tried this Out of Your Head software?
I have. He's doing something really interesting, and he's actually recording the characteristics of speakers in a room. And you can choose different speakers. So you can have, Revel speakers or Martin Logan's or whatever. And you can actually get the characteristics of those speakers in a room, because he's got a transfer function for those speakers. It's pretty neat. I talked to him. He called me way back when he was first developing it, and I was pretty impressed. But he was charging kind of a lot of money, kind of like $100 for software plus another $30 for each speaker algorithm. But he's actually exploring some new business models now, and I think he's going to start doing some more things in the smartphone venue, which would be a lot more exciting to me. That's where, and the neat thing about what he's doing is there really aren't any artifacts. He's not using phase processing or anything like that. Like you've heard some of the the fairly simple headphone virtualizers that use a lot of phase processing, and they just kind of sound all really awful. But he's doing a really nice job, and I think as his business model evolves, he's going to be maybe onto something.
You think he's going to be at CES? Will they be at CES, do you think?
I don't know, but he'll certainly be he'll be at CanJam, but CanJam's not in LA.
Oh, yeah.
Darn it.
Right. He was at the show last June. So I'm sure he'll be at various audio shows.
Yeah.
There's one other thing that's going to drive headphones, I wonder, and it's not sort of in the audiophile world, but VR, because this sort of out-of-your-head stuff, I think is really going to have a big impact on headphones for VR.
Yeah. VR itself is rising hugely this year.
And huge.
It's huge. Yeah, right. And we are likely to see a lot more of it next year, and certainly at CES we'll see a bunch of it. You guys must have noticed last year at CES in the grand concourse there, the big hallway between North Hall and Central Hall. I think it was Samsung had a sort of a theater set up and 30 or 40 seats. Everybody was sitting there with the VR gear on their head. And I didn't do it. I'm not a big VR fan.
Oh no, my only experience with the VR so far has been the demo of the Samsung setup at Best Buy. In fact, I was in there about a week ago and put the thing on, and it was actually quite impressive being able to turn my head to the left and right, or even all the way behind me, and see different things going on
and see stuff.
Yeah. See, but the only problem is the general picture quality was horrible.
Yes,
That's
like VHS or
because
sub
you were
VHS
dependent
quality
on the phone when they get to the VR headsets where they've got a little bit better display in them, it'll get a lot better.
Yeah, good.
I saw actually when I went to see the OSIC demo, they had an HTC Vive, which some people say is the best of modestly priced VR rigs, and it blew me away. I thought the picture quality was great. The way the soundtrack to picture was amazing. I'm not a gamer, so I'm not sure what I want to do with it. But from a technical standpoint, it was really incredible.
And did you think they'll have a lot of stuff at CES?
Well, the
picture was great. Yeah, the picture was
great.
I've seen the Samsung phones, and I think it's a really neat gimmick. Tom's right; the resolution's pretty low, but it is amazing what they're able to do. But with the HTC Vive, the resolution was quite good.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to check that one out then, because I had the same reaction that Tom did. Was, man, this resolution is really low. I can see the pixels easily. It's like, So we shall see.
Yeah, call me when it's 2K, or better yet, when it's a holodeck.
Yeah, right. Right. Brent, one thing you wrote to me when I asked for some ideas of what you wanted to talk about was, you said the biggest story for you in 2016 was how Amazon has become the leading speaker brand in the U.S.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
it's got sold out.
Yeah, it's got a 26% market share in the U.S. now. I mean, it just leapfrogged. If I remember correctly, Bose has been the #1 brand for a long, long, long time. And Amazon just came on and just knocked them out of the park, and they're only just getting started.
The only speaker they make is this little Echo thing, right? Or whatever it's called.
They make the Amazon Basics line of like really cheap but pretty good Bluetooth speakers for the price, $20, $30 Bluetooth speakers. But the Echo is clearly what's driving this thing. And that's the Tap, by the way, which I have all of them. I'm very enthusiastic about all of them.
Okay.
They're really great, and I'm giving a couple as Christmas gifts, and they're just fantastic. But this is something we're seeing that's going to – I also have the Google Home as well. This is really something that I think obviously it's caught on with the general public. I think it's going to catch on with audiophiles too, because if you can go buy – or you can't, you can go to Best Buy right now and buy the Amazon Echo Dot for $40. You can plug this thing into whatever high-end system you have, and you have a music server that actually works and that's actually fun to use. You just tell it, play the replacements or whatever, and it'll play the replacements for you, as opposed to most high-end music servers. It's really a nightmare. Yeah, the setup is a nightmare. The interface is kludgy. It's such a delight to use this thing, and I'm sure we'll see, some high-end companies will do higher-end versions because they can license the Amazon technology. We're going to see more that incorporate Google. Sony just announced yesterday they're putting the Google Home into their Bluetooth speakers. So I think this is going to be the really hot thing in audio, probably eventually video too.
Well, and that's a big part of the Google initiative. What you just said, Brent, that the OK Google, play this to my now she woke up. OK Google. I hate when Leo does that.
I know.
Turn off. But the ability to buy a Google Chromecast audio for $35, plug it into any high-end device, and stream stuff to it today is really a big deal.
Yeah, I would say that probably one of the big developments of the last couple of years is the increase in the number of product categories. I would not exactly call Amazon a speaker brand. I'd call them a seller of digital assistants that happen to have a speaker in them. Okay.
Well, you're talking probably about the sound quality. Here,
well, yeah,
which
about
is
the fact
not
that
going to be that high.
Its function is not just as a speaker. It has a speaker because it needs to communicate with people, but it's not just a speaker.
Right. And I think, Brent, you'd probably agree that one reason that this is becoming so big so fast is the implementation of voice command.
Well, that's the whole thing. It's just that it's so easy to use, and it's easy to set up too. Anybody can set it up. You plug it in. You tell it what you want, and it goes and finds it. You don't have to scroll through a screen or anything like that. And the sound quality, to Tom's point, the Echo sounds pretty horrifyingly bad. And the Google Home is no better, but it's bad in completely different ways. But with the Echo Dot, you plug it into. I play it through my Revels, and it sounds pretty amazing.
And don't count out voice control. We're talking about the smart garbage can, I think, before the show. The smart garbage can talks to your Echo. So if it sees that you're throwing out a lot of a particular thing, it'll have Amazon order more of that thing if you want.
Maybe next year the garbage can will be the top speaker brand.
It's got a good resonance cavity.
So more people
really, exactly.
More people need a garbage can than need a speaker. That's
That's one of those DIY things. Turn your garbage can into a subwoofer.
Well, with that, I think we've run out of time. Hey, but it's been great, man. Thanks so much to all of you for joining me to talk about 2016 and what we saw and heard, and a little bit about what we expect next year. That's there's a lot going on and a lot more coming up. So I want to thank you, Brent Butterworth, very much for being here.
Thanks, Scott. Good talking with you guys.
Yeah, you too. And you can get Brent's stuff at hometheaterreview.com. He's also on thewirecutter.com. So plenty
Soundstage
as well. And soundstage.com as well. Excellent. Have you got a Twitter handle that you want to tell everybody about?
No, I quit Twitter.
Okay. I gotcha. No problem. And then there's Mike Heiss. Thank you so much for being here, Mike.
Thank you, and happy Mary to the chat roomers.
Indeed. You can get Mike's stuff at residentialsystems.com. He's now writing for twice.com and also hiddenwires.co.uk, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Very good. And Tom Norton at soundandvision.com. Thank you so much for being here.
Scott, it was a lot of fun.
Good. I agree. You can find me at avsforum.com. You can email me at scott@twit.tv. And you can follow me on Twitter at htgeekscott and at avsforum. You can always find previous episodes of Home Theater Geeks right here at twit.tv/htg and on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/twit Home Theater Geeks. Oh, and one more thing. I want to make sure everybody knows that the Twit store is now open. You can check out a bunch of cool new designs, and we've brought back some popular favorites. So be sure to go visit twit.tv/store. I don't know if there's time yet for any last-minute Christmas shopping, but there might be. It's certainly worth going to check out, and I do recommend it. Well, this is our last live show for 2016. Next week, Twit will be present a collection of clips from Home Theater Geeks from some of the best shows of the year, so I do hope you will tune in for that. We will be off on January 5th. All of us will be at CES, scouring the show floor for all the cool stuff, and I'll be conducting interviews in various booths, and that will be presented the next Thursday, January 12th. So I do hope you will join us for the best of next week and the interviews from CES on January 12th. Meanwhile, I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season, a very happy new year, and as always, geek out.